Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential. Chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. Today for the podcast, I've interviewed someone really special. In fact, so special that after this interview was done, I contacted Giovanni back and asked if he would be willing to mentor me. So that should give you some sort of insight as to what I thought of Giovanni. The man is presence. The man is wisdom. The man is greatness. And he pulls that in others. And I felt that in just spending a very short time with him. And I really hope you guys listen intently for the being, not just the words that are coming out of this mouth, but the being of who this person is. Gio started a organization or a mastermind called Archangels. And the whole point is to have people in a room giving value. Imagine paying $5,000 to be in an event and you're asked to give instead of show up and receive. What a concept, right? So we speak a lot about that. We speak a lot about what is rejection marketing, something that Gio will go into great detail about, and an X Prize goal that they have of raising $1 million to support an X Prize. And if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we end with, what would it look like if you not only spent your time finding out where your gift is in the world, but actually ways to grow and share that gift with the world. And that's Gio's passion. So enjoy this incredible two-part interview with who will soon be my mentor, Giovanni Marsico. Enjoy. Super excited today. We have a big hitter. You're going to find out a little more about him as we go through this. But a man well-connected who's got an incredible head on his shoulder. And as we were just talking, a very open heart. So Giovanni Marsico, welcome.
Thank you, Ilan. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell people, before I gush about you, tell people about a little what you do, a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this.
What I do. So I do two different completely distinct things. One is in the real estate space in Toronto, where I sell pre-construction condos to investors. And then my real passion business, where my heart belongs, is Archangel, which is essentially a community of really successful but also big-hearted entrepreneurs who want to, in some way, make the world a better place.
And how did you, let's talk a little bit more about, because the real estate investing, I know we can always talk about, that was actually my background previously. But I think Archangel is where our listeners are really going to get jazzed up here. And I'm sure you do as well. Tell me how that came about and a little bit more about what that is.
Absolutely. So my last real job that I had was at a place called Strategic Coach, which is a high-level coaching program for entrepreneurs. And that was between 2002, 2005.
Is that Dan Sullivan?
Dan Sullivan, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was running the marketing there. And I got to sit in on workshops with some extraordinary people. And it's where I met Joe Polish, who runs 25K, and all sorts of other really impressive people who, ironically, I didn't know who they were at the time. I was just thinking I was lucky to be in this room. But I learned more from sitting in those workshops about entrepreneurship than any school could ever teach. And I felt like I was cheating because these people were spending or investing $10,000 to $20,000 a year to be in this room, and I was getting paid a lot more than that to sit in the same room. So I figured, I was entrepreneurial and very unemployable. When you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to work for something.
Yes.
So when I left, I thought, I have to find a way to pay back this gift that I've been given. And I also thought I would love to one day recreate my experience where I was sitting in a room as a young entrepreneur, learning from the smartest people on the planet. And that was sort of the seed that was planted at the time. And I also said at the time, whenever I qualify, I want to come back as a client. So I left there, started a marketing coaching company, and that led me into the real estate space. And real estate is where I built my success and where I got to eventually go back as a client. So I've been a strategic coach client for 3 years, which has been a huge dream come true for me.
How is it on the different side?
Totally, yeah. It's very weird walking in the first day as a client, looking around thinking, oh my God, I got to straighten those pencils and I got to look at this. Yeah.
They're like, you don't have to do anything. Just go to your seat, please.
Sit down. And that led me to reconnecting with Joe Polish and joining his 25K group, which was a huge transformation for me. And it was at a 25K meeting where I got to sit beside Peter Diamandis throughout the whole event.
Wow.
This is 2012. And he was
reading his book right now.
Yeah, he's so amazing. He's one of my heroes. And he was talking about how in his Singularity University, they teach people how to, change the world for 1 billion people and how to think huge. And he talks about moonshots in his new book, Bold, right? And at the time I was thinking, I really want to do this Archangel thing. I had this idea ruminating in my brain, and I figured I'll start in 2014. But it was after hearing him speak, I thought, screw this, I'm starting now.
Wow.
And it just sort of laid the foundation. And the whole premise was I wanted to find people who were just like me, who wanted to be successful, make a lot of money, but also make a bigger difference, and not pick one or the other, because that seems to be the case a lot, where people are either really driven by money or driven by a cause, and they think money's evil, right? I thought, well, let's marry the two, because you can't do good without doing well, right? And you need money, you need profit to create sustainability. So I thought, why don't I go out, find people like me, create a sort of mastermind, share our wisdom together, pool our ideas together so that we help each other grow, and at the same time find a way to create bigger impact altogether. And that was sort of the birthing of Archangel. And at the time I was doing real estate, so I couldn't really invest 100% of my time. So what I ended up doing was events where I can put 100 people in a room and do this once or twice a year. And that started in, our first big event was the beginning of 2014 in Toronto. We had 100 people, and that went really well. And then I thought, I want to do this in January because there's a special date in January for me, but who the heck's going to come to Toronto in January from other cities? So we needed a new location, and I said, I need somewhere warm, something that has to do with angels. And I came up with LA because it's the city of angels. And literally that's how I came up with the city.
Very, very strategic.
Yeah. So we did one in 2014 in LA, and we just did our second annual LA event, end of January this year, which went really well.
Amazing. So real quick, because I know a lot of people who are listening are kind of always teetering with this thing because they see other people like yourself doing these live events. And for someone that was doing something else but had this idea and putting something like that together, I know that for me, when we were starting that conversation, the thought is, holy shit, what an undertaking. What if no one wants to come? What if no one shows up? There's a lot of fear-based stuff or doubt that comes up. How do you just jump into the ring and say, F it, we're doing it and it's going to be awesome?
So I need to give you a little more history. My first ever business when I was 16 was throwing big events for teenagers. And at the biggest one we ever did, we had 5,000 people in the club. It was in a nightclub.
Nice.
2,000 people in line that couldn't get in because the cops came and they bolted the door saying, you guys are over capacity. It was kind of fun. And event production, experience design is a huge passion for me. And it's something I've been doing for now 22 years, right? So the idea of doing an event wasn't as scary as it probably is for most people, but there's a million events that happen every year.
Yeah.
There's mastermind groups. So in terms of differentiation, I thought, what do I do to make this completely different? And I came up with a whole bunch of things. So the first one was it has to be by invitation only or by application, where they have to fit a very specific criteria. So it's not just successful. You have to be super giving. And the whole premise of the event is giving. So, any event you go to, you talk about the takeaways. What did you learn? What did you bring back with you? And I want to do the opposite. I want to talk about what you gifted, what you gave. And it's almost like a big give-a-thon where everyone competes to see who can help more the other people in the room. And our motto is walk in with one gift and leave with 100.
Wow.
And my whole premise is, and because it's kind of a hard sell to say, well, you're going to come to this event, you're going to pay $5,000, and you're going to help everybody else there instead of helping yourself. But when 100 people do the same thing, the actual takeaways are exponential.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And the energy in the room is insane because everyone has that big-hearted, open-hearted nature to want to share and want to help, which is something really unique that I've created that I don't even know how to explain it unless you're actually in the room to feel that energy. It's a giant love, right? And the second thing I did was I have ADD. I can't stand hour-long keynotes where there's like maybe 3 nuggets that you write in your. So I came up with this term I call cramped hands, where people need to leave the event. Their hand is so cramped because of all the notes they took. So we do that in a variety of ways. The first thing is most talks are 10 minutes or shorter. And if I do something longer, it's usually an interview format where the audience can do a Q&A with the speaker. Mm-hmm. And then I do something really unique where we give every single attendee the opportunity to go up and do a 2-minute talk, offering 1 nugget of value. And we also do that as a way for them to introduce themselves authentically to the room through their gift so that people know who to connect with. Because we all go to events where there's a million people you want to connect with, but you don't know who they are. And how would you ever know to connect with them?
Yeah.
Right. And it also gives people the opportunity, especially if they've never spoken before, to get on stage in front of an audience that loves them, that won't judge them, that wants them to open up and share their gift. And again, that, I've had so many people come to me after the event in LA saying, not only was this the best event I've ever attended, but it was the happiest day of my life. And that just blows me away, right?
Especially for people who are scared to speak in front of a group of people. A lot of entrepreneurs, I found this out only recently, are major introverts, right, and are super uncomfortable in a group of more than one. So I know 2 things you mentioned. Have you ever heard of Landmark Education?
I have, yes.
Okay. So at the advanced course, one of the big things for them is focus on others, not on you. And it's interesting when you say that you set up your mastermind that way, because when you take yourself out of the equation and you just listen for what other people need and want, you become the best version of yourself. And that's why people feel so amazing. But when you they also have people go on stage, and I've seen people literally shed whatever identity they thought they were there in 2 minutes. And I can't imagine what that would be like for, a major introvert in a safe space to go and do that and then have the feedback probably from everyone and just go, oh, wow, that's really me. I just got to experience me. What a gift.
Well, so many people have those mental blocks based on whatever crappy programming they've had growing up. And what, for some reason, public speaking is one of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
And funny story, I have a son who's 9 years old. He had to give his first speech in school. And the teacher said it could be on any topic. So I had that in mind where I said, I don't want to set him up for failure in the future where he gets scared of speaking. So since she said you can do any topic, I said, Michael, we're going to talk about Nintendo, the history of Nintendo, the history of Super Mario, because that's his favorite thing on the world. And I figured if he's going to get up and talk about what he's passionate about now and set the stage for not fearing speaking, it'll probably give him that catalyst that he needs. And I base that on what I saw at my event, right? So people getting up speaking about their passion to a room of passionate people who are there open to receive whatever they want to share. And it works. So now he's super excited to speak. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I went through all that crap when I was in elementary school of fearing speaking.
Yeah.
And it took me to be in front of 5,000 people at one of my own events where I had no issues because I thought, this is fun.
Amazing. So tell me, we spoke a little before offline about an experience that you had recently. So I heard Giovanni say on one of his interviews that he calls all his clients family. And I said to him, it's really interesting because that's what we do. Every time someone enters our space, they become a lead, they buy a product, whatever, the first email they get is, welcome to the SatoriPrime family. And he said, I'm doing the same. But you also mentioned that this was just a recent thing, like 2 months ago. You said something happened at the Archangel event. Can you just take people through that? Because I just think that's brilliant.
Well, thank you. So I'll start off by saying there's a concept I teach called rejection marketing, where you literally say no to almost everyone just to say hell yes to the right people, right? And that's how we've built the Archangel Tribe, where you either have to be a hell or fuck yes. I don't know if you allow swearing on your podcast.
Oh yeah, love swearing.
either fuck yes or no. And when you do that, everything changes and the energy changes. And to be in that room, I felt like I had wings, literally. And after the fact, it was 2 weeks after. So we actually had a singer, an opera singer, perform at the event to open the event as a big surprise. And she emailed me saying, listen, I have this new track I just wrote. It's not out yet, but listen to it. Let me know if you want to use it for anything you're doing, any of your videos. And the song is called Messenger, which already blew me away because I discovered recently that the word angel is ancient Greek for messenger.
Wow.
And that's who we all are in my tribe, right? So, oh my God, you wrote a song called Messenger. So I'm driving in my car and I'm listening to the song and I thought, wow, what a beautiful song. Then I heard it again and again. And by the fifth or sixth time, everything that had happened at the event just struck me at the same time. And I, like I explained to you, it felt like the opposite of a panic attack, where it was every positive emotion hitting me at the same time. So, like happiness and joy and fulfillment and bliss. And just, I was so overwhelmed with it that I burst out crying in a good way, but I was driving. So I had to pull over and just sit in that moment and realize, wow, this was like the thing that made me realize this is my path. And I discovered that when you are walking your path, that's when you feel confidence and all those positive emotions. And the second you step off is when the anxiety comes back. And I've been through crazy depressions and negative emotions. And this was the exact opposite. And my mom, actually, I saw her that day and she said, I haven't seen you like this since you were 20. Wow. And 20 is when I was doing my parties, right? And that's when I was in my zone doing the thing I love to do. And for this past LA event, I made this big decision. It was a risk, but it paid off, where all the money I would have invested in advertising, I invested in production design and experience design. And I had crazy staging that looked like the Tonight Show. And I had lighting and I had a DJ in the room the whole time playing in between speakers. And I had the singer, right? And I had all this fun stuff that I used to do when I was 20. And I was in my element again. And people saw it and they saw me sort of glowing from it. This is the shit. Like this is, if I could just do this forever. Oh. Yeah. And yeah, it just sort of struck me in that moment in the car.
Did you feel like, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, you're sharing the story, and I actually had at least 5 similar moments where I was just so overcome. It almost feels like electricity is running through your body.
Yep.
And almost you either cry or scream as loud as you've ever screamed in your life, because there's so much energy coursing through your body at that moment.
It felt like a bolt of lightning hit me.
Yeah, right. Like, and you either have to run, jump, or just stand there and just like you just feel electrocuted. I don't know if you had this experience, but I actually felt like my heart almost ripped open. It was just like, this is going to sound so not heterosexual, but I literally felt like a rainbow started shooting out of my heart. All I wanted to do was just hug the world, hug the people around me. And this is what we were talking about before, where you said, I love you to more men in the last 2 months because of it.
Totally.
After, right?
I've never hugged as many men. I've never told as many men that I love them, and I with true love than I have in the past 2 months ever since that event. And to your point about the rainbow, reminds me of Care Bears as a kid. I don't know if you ever watched it. That's that feeling. You just
exactly. That's like, kind of what I don't know if I want to go there just yet, but thank you for doing that. Yeah, what a beautiful experience. I mean, I wish I could somehow bottle that up and give that to people, but it's just something that you said. You've done so much personal development work. You've done amazing things. It just takes sometimes these moments where all the pieces align perfectly. One of the greatest things when we first spoke a while back that you had shared with me was the mission or the game that you guys are playing at Archangel, which just is mind-blowing. And I think this came out of your probably conversation with Peter. But can you talk a little bit about that and just share what that's all about?
Yeah, and I'll give the background to it in the foundation. So for the event, part of the benefit is that we keep it small. It's always going to be between 100 to 120 people. And, there are so many people that want to join the Archangel tribe and movement. And we're developing what we're calling Archangel Club, which is a really interesting project. It's a community, sort of like a membership site where everyone invests $126 a month, but half of that, instead of being paid to affiliates like the traditional marketing model that everyone uses, because I don't like the idea of someone being paid to refer someone to me.
Yeah.
For the money. Again, it's not aligned with what I'm not against it for other people. I think it's awesome, but just not for me.
Yeah.
So instead of paying out affiliate commissions, which is usually, somewhere in the 50% range, we're going to take that money, put it into a pot, and use that money to make the world a better place somehow in a variety of ways, and have the community, the members, or the family vote for how that money should be invested every month. And one of the big projects we plan on working on is to raise $1 million that will be used as an X Prize sponsorship. And if you don't know what X Prize is, check out xprize.org. It was founded by Peter Diamandis. I think the story is back in '96. He started a contest to have a private team build a spaceship, essentially, that can go into orbit for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And the prize was $10 million. And the famous story is that at the time, he didn't have the $10 million, which was supposed to be sponsored by someone. So he called it X Prize because they didn't have a sponsor. But it took 8 years, and they found a family that donated the $10 million as the prize. And in 2004, a team successfully won the prize. And that, literally that day, Richard Branson came in, bought the rights to it, and that turned into Virgin Galactic. Yep. Peter discovered with huge incentivized contests, you can literally change the world, right? You can do things that are game changing. So he started the X Prize Foundation to create these huge contests. And right now, for example, they have won the Tricorder Prize, which is essentially to create a device this big that could diagnose any disease, right? And these are the kind of huge contests that they're running. And they allow companies, corporations, to sponsor these prizes. So I want to raise the $1 million to sponsor a prize, and then have the community vote for which global challenge we're going to solve. And I'm ridiculously excited about that. But we also have smaller things that we want to do on a monthly basis, where we donate or gift forward money to one of the members for a specific project they're working on that could have a big impact in the world. And again, have the community vote for how that money gets invested.
Yeah, it's genius. And I said before, I'm reading Peter and Stephen Cutler's book called Bold. And that's his big thing, where it's like, if you put enough money and enough incentive for people, there's so much genius out there. And I think it couldn't have worked out any more perfect, where their first one, they actually fulfilled on it. And that day, Richard Branson buys it. So clearly the model works. It's just brilliant that you've created this mission within this give structure and mission. It's like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we can impact the world. Because I truly do believe that right now, if people threw their resources at problems, but not in a way where it's like, hey, we're just going to buy a whole bunch of this, but actually come up with solutions that are so out of the box that can actually change the world. I do really believe that that's where we're going to see the biggest shift.
I don't know the actual number. I can't remember, but I know for a fact that I think it was 30 to 40 million was actually spent by the teams trying to build the spaceship for a $10 million prize.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's not even the prize. It's just the opportunity to do what you're really passionate about to solve a big challenge.
Exactly. And most of these guys are probably in jobs or things that they're working on that they're happy maybe, but they get this thing in their brain, kind of like you got put back into your element. They get put back into their element. They're that little kid playing with Legos again and going, oh my God, we're going to solve this. And I think that's where they get their juice. Tell me a little bit more about how you qualify these people, how people join. Is it a $5,000 one time for the event? Are these people paying you monthly? If someone wanted to potentially contact you to join, how would they even go about that?
So to join the community, the first step is Archangel Club, and that's at archangel.club. And that's the smaller one, where it's $126 a month. And what we look for, number one, people who are super positive, very giving, some type of established entrepreneur, so not just a startup, and they have a gift. in terms of their wisdom, their expertise, their success, their failure, some kind of story that adds value to the group. And from there, for the event, we look for even more established entrepreneurs, typically doing 7 figures or more. Again, doing something to make the world a better place, super positive, not much ego or that negative ego, and hyper growth oriented. They're not satisfied with where they are. They're on a huge trajectory, because that's who I am. And I want to surround myself with people like me. And to give you an example, someone applied last year for the event. Someone I actually thought would have been awesome to come, but in the application, he wrote, when I asked, a question, what is your gift? He wrote, just Google me. And I said,
my God.
Fuck that. Like, no, sorry.
Wow.
Right?
I think you missed the point, buddy.
Yeah. And that's not what we want. We want people to show up who are there to give more than to receive.
Mm.
And that's for the community at a whole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And people are in all sorts of businesses, right? This is not one thing or another.
Yeah. And we actually, so another unique aspect of the community is that we look for balance in many ways. And the first one is sex, meaning male or female. Most entrepreneurial events I go to are either 80-90% men.
Absolutely.
Or the other ones are 100% women, which I can't attend.
Yeah.
And I would like to. But
I was going to say, how many of those you've been to?
I'm trying very hard to get to those ones. So my whole thing was I want the room to be 50-50, and we're very conscious of that. And the next one is age, where we have, at our last event, the youngest person was 18, and he's on fire, this kid, Patrick Finnegan. And the oldest person was probably in their 60s.
Wow.
And it's a cross section of age, because I don't want all the same type. And then the third balance is on, I guess you call it content. So it's, on the left-handed side, all hardcore business tactics, and on the right side, spirituality and meditation and life and growth and family, right? So not one or the other, but an awesome balance of both. And then from industry, we get people from all sorts. So we've had, the typical, coaches, and then we have people doing product, and then we have everything. The one caveat, like the one thing everyone has in common is their heart and how much they love and give. Everything else doesn't really matter as long as they're some form of entrepreneur.
So aside from obviously having your heart busted wide open at this last event, which is just, probably the greatest gift ever, being inside it, you said this line right before where it's, I wanted to surround myself with people who are on the same trajectory as me. And we all know that thing, look at your 5 closest friends, you're the average of them. And if you don't like that, then go find a new network. So you went out and created this network. Could you share 1 or 2 stories with our listeners about something that you took away from either a talk or someone that you connected with that completely changed the course of your life? I've just realized that I've started quite a bad habit of leaving you guys hanging at the very last moment, but I think it's kind of fun. So we're going to end this part here, and hopefully you got to start seeing some of what I was talking about in the intro of, again, Gio's presence, giving, pulling for people's greatness. And hopefully you can understand why I immediately reached out to him to become my mentor. So part 2 will be coming out in a couple of days. Make sure you listen for that one. Obviously, we're going to talk about the greatest lesson learned from the masterminds, and we'll go into many, many other things. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I really look forward to seeing you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors?